Welcome to the Peace and Happiness Podcast. Our outcome goal is to bring you insights and reflections that help you remove from your psyche any barriers or walls that are keeping you from deeper sense of peace and happiness. Welcome to this month's Women's History Month. I wanted to do a podcast where it would be a group of us. And I think this was the perfect group because we have come from a place that a lot of us didn't know each other. And here we are 20 months later, and we've definitely, I think, as far as intimacy and rawness and openness is definitely something that I would stamp this group with. And that doesn't normally happen if you're not like a grade school friend or a college friend. And so for that to come at this stage of our lives, when we're pretty much set, that's very rare that we open up and friends. And a lot of people talk about vulnerability or feeling safe in order to establish that. And I wouldn't say that's exactly what you guys had. Would you agree? Was feeling safe and no. And so who here, which one of you guys did not know most of the people? I know you two probably did. But so Heather, you really didn't know most everyone. Yeah, you didn't really know anyone.
I knew you. We're
Yeah.
partners.
Yeah. I knew of you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And Savannah, you didn't really know any of them, did you?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
We did university
And
together.
did you and Trina know each other, Jeanette? No. And you guys are like besties, right? Because every time they're having lunch, they're doing this. So that's awesome. So with that, I want to get started. Before we started the podcast, we kind of went deep and I liked it. I wish we would have got that on the podcast. But you were saying, Darla, like that if we're honest, like I was talking about like my challenges, right? In coming into union. And you were saying how like you've had your feelings just about with everyone in the group, at least one or just maybe not one or two people, but for the majority, you've had something, right? Do you want to continue where I said, let's start the podcast?
Right. I was just saying, because you had mentioned, when are they going to love each other? And my first reaction, gut reaction was like, oh, I do love them. But then in looking back, reflecting, I'm like, well, no, because there's been things with each individual that have brought something up in me that I haven't necessarily talked about with each individual. And so I also don't see that as necessarily loving on them, like just loving them, if that makes sense.
No, most definitely. Would you say that you've worked the majority of the things out with the things that have come up for you?
Yes, because it's always been something in me.
So I was going to go there. It always comes back that it has to do with us, right? Versus,
right.
Yeah. Is there one particular thing that you can remember that you would be good to share?
Yeah. It was with Heather, and it was when we were doing our mock sessions of coaching. And I was the kind of person that would watch everybody's or listen to everybody's. And I felt like I noticed with Heather, there was a struggle in like getting the point across. Like she was very resistant to whatever it was. And I'd be like, oh, can she see? Or why isn't she getting it? And I remember talking to Cassie about it, I think on a hike. And I had a session with you, and that exact thing came up for me. Is I was very resistant to it in getting the thing. And I was like, oh, that's what it was. So that's just one example.
I love that. It always comes back to us, like when we think there's an issue. And I think I've set that up for us as a group at times, right? I say, well, you need to talk to that person, or let's talk this out, or I'll bring it up in group, and everyone's like, she just went there, right? And like, I'm going to do right now. So another example of what you just said, Cassie had one recently this week. Oh, yes.
Oh, man. This was a big one. So there was something in me, Jeanette, when I was getting like your text. I was like, what is it? Like, what is this rise that I'm getting? And I had talked to Darla. I'm like, there's something in me that I feel when I get Jeanette's text. Like, what is it? And Darla was like, I don't know. Like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. So I was telling Raquel, like, what is it that it's coming up in me? Like, I know, like, I love Jeanette. She has such a kind heart, but there's something in me that like comes up. And
you had expressed that exactly. You said, like, when I'm with her, I just love being with her. I enjoy her, but
Or
I don't know what it is
conversations.
when the texts come through.
yeah. And then Raquel's like, is it more of like a nag? And I was like, yeah, but I nag too. And she's like, oh. And she's like, did you
No, I asked you, do you I said, I know exactly what it is. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
I said, are you sure you want to know?
yeah. And she's like, so
I always say that because
there's
it's
like
true.
a
Do you really want to know?
fixation. Like, do you feel like she has a fixation on things? Like, she'll ask a question and then you'll answer it, but then she'll ask again. I'm like, I do that too. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Raquel's like, well, as your work husband, I know, and I see your fixations, and there are situations where I won't bring to you because you can get that fixated and that nagging. I'm like, oh, shoot, you're right. Like 100%. I can get there. And then Raquel's like, do you see how maybe in your relationship, Jose doesn't bring up things up to you because of the fixation and the nagging? And I'm like, oh, I wanted to puke. It was wild. And then I thought about all these things. I'm like,
And it was deep
yeah.
because I gave you exact examples. I said, I can see this with Jose. He won't share certain things because of this. And then I gave her an example. Remember the key? And she's like, the key.
Yeah, and it was still rising. I was like, the damn keys.
Something happened. We don't need to get into it, but it was about a third party and a key. And I just decided not to tell her because it was going to get fixed. It doesn't really matter. And I just knew she would, like she said right now, I still could get a rise out of it. And it was like, I was telling her, I go, I do that. I choose sometimes not to tell you something because I know it's just, you're going to fixate on it, that wasn't right. They shouldn't have done that, or it needs to be like this. And I said, and that's why in the coaches meeting, when I did say, and can we stop with the text and can we do this? I told her, I said, it's because you're my work wife. I go, so happy wife, happy life. And so if Jeanette's upsetting you, guess what? I'm going to say, or the coaches are upsetting you, I'm going to be like, can you all back off? Because I didn't have to deal with it.
It's so crazy.
I love the fact that here we are 20 months later, and we wouldn't be able to have a conversation like this where we're going to air it nationally, like in the podcast, in the YouTube. And that really, to go back to what you said, Darla, that is love. That is love. Love is growth. Love isn't you do for me, I do for you. Love isn't perfect. Love bears all things. It makes me want to cry. Because somebody recently had something to pick with me, and I told the person, well, that isn't what happened, but even if that happened, what? Even if I had said that, I go, do I not deserve to be loved for who I am in their life and who I've been? And then I cleared it up because it was a total misunderstanding. And the person was so like, I knew it and I love you. And I was like, yeah. And just so you know, I told the person, I'm going to talk to them. But even if I had messed up, even if I had done that, even if I had said that, that's it? You write me off? That you get offended and that's it? And so that's love. Like, we will offend each other, and we don't have to see that we have to be perfect, because then that's not a real relationship. A real relationship is what we have going on. Did you want to say something?
I was going to say that's how I know that I love you, and I realize that we have a loving relationship because old Darla would have written you off. And when things happened, I was fighting everything in me not to go back to old Darla. And look at where we are. We made it. So there's no getting rid of me.
And I love it because for me, it was a lot of learning you. That's really what it was, because had I known things about you, a lot of the things that transpired in the last 2 to 3 years for us wouldn't have happened. Because if I learn somebody and I know them, then I don't need you to keep me safe. Then I know how to manage our relationship, because you don't have to be perfect. I do that with both my kids. They're not perfect, but I know how to manage my relationship, so it's always growing in love because, well, they're my kids especially. I definitely have learned them. But I think that's something that's missing in women relationships is learning one another. Like, I know how to approach you, Trina. Like when we went to the Big Bear cabin, and I said, Trina and Annette get the bottom floor because they're my bougie girls. Not to label you, not a negative, but, to me, it was like, I know them. And you guys, that was your first time really connecting, right? And you guys connected deeply?
We did. I was going to say, one of the best things that I think you did early on after the first few months was telling us that we needed to just become friends. We needed to get to know each other. And it was perfect timing because we were going to start coaching each other. And it wouldn't have gone as smoothly if we hadn't socialized and done the things that we did together. And I know it was kind of like, oh, okay, here's my phone number. It was like a blind date. Are you free on Tuesday night? It was awkward. Yeah. And then as time went on, we really started to develop relationships. And so even when we were going through something hard, it was like a safe place to land. So it was great.
Most definitely.
That was a struggle for me in the beginning. I remember after the first meeting, I told my mom, I was like, I did not know there was going to be other coaches. I thought I was going to be her intern or something. She was taking me under her wing. And I go,
aren't you special?
And I'm like, and there's all these other women. And she was like, okay. And I was like, they're way older than me. And she was like, okay. And I was like, they're going to look at me like I'm a baby. Like I am. Like I'm so like, they're going to be like, who the heck is this girl? Okay, sure.
And how do you feel today?
I feel like a seen woman. I don't feel like a baby. I feel equal, actually. That was something that was really a challenge, to be like, but they're way older than me, so I'm gonna just listen. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna say what I would want to ask them or even reach out to them, because I was honestly scared. I was like, they're way older than me. Like, not way older, but
we're all giving you crazy eyes right now.
Sorry.
Hey.
It's just, well, I would see myself like I would be 21 and I still felt like 12. So that's where it was just like, who am I to have even a voice?
I remember when, I think it was 2 years ago, I talked to your mom and I said, look, I forget how old you were then, but I said, I know she's this age, but really I have her at 14, 15 right now. Give me about 6 more months, I'll have her at 18, 19. And I remember when I saw her, I said, she'll be her age in about 1 year. And you are your age.
25, if that makes you feel better.
Not really, half my age, but so.
Mine's too. And then some.
Now, I have noticed you and Heather have seemed to develop a relationship. Yeah, because I hear you. I talked to Heather, and I was talking to Savannah. I'm like, they're talking. So I love it how I see all these, relationships kind of happen, and I'm like, they're talking. I love it. What had you connect to Heather, or just basically?
Well, I did the university with Heather, so I felt like in the beginning, at first, I was like, okay, like I at least know one person, like kind of well, because just from the Peace and Happiness University, and then I I don't know, when you would talk, I would just like relate to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's how I feel. And I would just like, you were just so warm and open on Zoom. So then I just was like, she's so nice, I'm gonna gravitate towards her. Not that anyone else with me, but I was like, maybe I'll reach out to her. And then
Did you feel safe?
yeah, I felt yes, that's exactly what it was, because doing the university, I was like, oh, okay, like she kind of knows me because of things that I've opened up about on there, and like I feel like I've heard her and like William, and so I was like, oh, I can talk to her. I felt safe.
How was that for you, Heather? How has that been for you?
I think when Trina said like we've all become like a soft place to land for each other. Like I have a lot of friends, and the relationships that we've created together is just so beautiful to me. It is a soft place to land where I know I'm always going to get truth. And that's pure love to me, because I normally don't go to other friends outside of this group and talk to them about things because I know I'm not going to get the truth. And I know that I can call any of you, and I just feel like it's like a tribe. We are one, and we love and support each other, and I'm always going to get the truth and see things accurately with every single one of you. Like I know that I can reach out at any point, and we can coach each other and support each other. And I don't know if that's anything I've ever had before. It's just beautiful to me that we've created that. And like you said, it's only been 2 years.
Not even.
And I
We're on the
feel
20th month right now.
closer to all of you than any other relationships that I have.
They're very deep and intimate for sure. Like I said before we started the podcast, thank you for sharing that, Heather. Before I started the podcast, I shared that I've been looking at myself very hard. It makes me want to cry. Give me a minute. Yeah, I had just been looking at myself a lot this last 2 weeks, because as I shared, I was frustrated. I'm like, when are they gonna like reach love, you know? And it's not that you guys don't love each other, and it's not that you haven't reached love, but only you guys really know me in that sense. And I was so busy making a safe space for you guys that what I realized, I shared Cassie today, this morning, or the other day, I go, this isn't a safe space for me. And I said, because I realized when I went out with my girlfriend on Sunday that I hadn't seen in 4 years, I felt like, what is going on with me? I'm so like intense. And my friend is just like looking at me, smiling, because she, it's a 40-year friendship. And I told Cassie, I felt weird. Like I was very intense. And then I sat with it and I reflected, and I was like, I didn't face Susie at all. Susie was like, she's always had that, oh, my friend's a badass. My friend will kick your butt. You're a man. She don't care. She's going to kick your butt, And so I realized, I was like, and that's why I said that to you on yesterday's review. You get to learn me, because then that's when I realized. I'm like, I'm busy trying to create a safe space, and I've made sure that I didn't want any of you guys to break, and I just wanted to make sure to like hold you guys up, that in it, I kind of like, I didn't create a space for me within that, And I realized like, oh, like I need a space here too. And that's, what I was sharing with Cassie. I go, they get to see me be a little loud. They get to see me moving forward, maybe sometimes intense, or they get to see me kind of like when I saw that video in your review and you're like, F Raquel. And I was like, and I shared it with you afterwards, right? But then I was in a funny mode, but I was having a really bad day that day. And I was like, F you too, Heather. I'm feeling neutral. But of course, when I shared it with you, I was obviously way over it, and it was a joke to me. But I can still remember when those things happen. I'm always, okay, what in me? What in me? And that's what I've learned recently. I'm always so, and Cassie knows this because we had something in our work relationship where I said, hey, I have to have a meeting with you and I have a lot of things to say, but I just want you to know that it's all on me. Like, these things are valid, but I know that I'm the one that's not like, I'm a firm believer that crap travels down, not up. And so hear me out because I do need us to address this, but at the same time, it's on me. And so, and I'll figure it out. I haven't figured it out yet, but I will. And so then we had the conversation, and was that easy? Like, that conversation? It wasn't bad though.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't easy.
It wasn't, yeah. And so I remember after we got off the phone, I just carry it very heavy. Like, I'm like, I just don't want anyone to go through pain. I mean, that's what V-Saga is all about, right? Getting people out of pain and trauma and healing. So the last thing I want to do is cause anyone any type of pain or trauma. And so it was like 2 or 3 hours later, right? And
yeah, it was like maybe 4 hours.
Or maybe 4 hours, yeah. And I'm like, Cassie, I figured it out. It was all me. I go, because
I should have had started the meeting like this.
I said, I should have started the meeting like this. We're having all these challenges, and the reason we're having them is because I haven't trained you.
And that was like, like the heaviness. Yeah. But still, there are some things that I could have had worked on too. Like I was telling you, you're not at fault. There are things that I had to do too in things you addressed. But when you said that, like, that just cleared everything up too. That was the heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was important. I remember you asking me, how do you get there? She had already surpassed, and I knew you didn't say it, but I knew what you were asking really. When you asked me, how did you get there? You said, how do you get there? How do you end up always getting there? Like, figuring out how it's you. And I knew what you really were asking. And I don't think I shared this with you before. What you were really asking is, tell me how you get there so I can do that and get there myself for myself.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that, I coach myself a lot, right? Like internally myself. And I told her, I go, I just sit with it like, where in this am I being the cause? And somebody had texted me, oh, you are a masterful teacher. I don't know, something like that. And then when I saw that, I was like, that's what I'm not doing with Cassie. I never really taught her. I was just like, here's your job, and here's all the things I want you to do. And she's like, okay. And it's like, well. It's like, you're and I'm like, you're not doing your job. And I was like, oh no. But she is. And that's the other part that for me, I want to talk about what is vulnerability, because I think that the reason we've grown so much is that, like, when I talked about just 5 or 10 minutes ago, where I haven't felt safe, that's nothing you ladies have done. That's everything I have done, because I haven't been vulnerable. Like when I was talking to you, Darla, the other day, and I don't know exactly what it was. We were talking about it before we actually started recording. And I said, but can I get love too? Like, I want to be loved too. Like, is that, And then she was like, yeah, that's fair. That's good. And so that is me learning to be vulnerable with you guys and like sharing what I'm sharing right now and like expressing what I'm expressing, because as individuals, you guys are all amazing and show up very masterfully, each in your own way. But that doesn't mean that I don't get to have, like, you guys all have personal relationships where I don't really have personal relationships with you guys. I mainly have them with Savannah a bit. I think it's because she's so young, and we really had a deep mentor relationship. And I have more than anything a personal relationship with Cassie. But that's a me thing, because I haven't decided to be vulnerable or ask. And I think that's where I fell in love with you a lot. Like, you didn't allow me to be vulnerable or not be vulnerable. I remember you would just show up to my house with food, Jeanette. Yeah. And you would just, I remember when Garrett passed away, and I was so busy putting the whole funeral together and getting a food chain for, the family and everything. And I came home one day so tired because I was literally working night and day at that point because I was handling the funeral and being there for the family. And I come home one day and you had food for my kids and me and for the week. And I just really thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you guys you pushed the door.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah, and I already felt that love for you because that was many years ago.
Yeah, it's like
and
12 years.
I just knew what I needed to do for you because I felt like that was my contribution on helping you to continue to rise up and do all the wonderful things you were already doing back in 2015, 2016 when I first met you. And I thought that was definitely my way of showing to you and your kids and, how much you meant in community. And we were one then.
And it's very different, right? Because I think that's why relationships separate a lot in women, because we don't know how to hold space when our friends grow or develop or have children and we don't have children, or their kids become adults and they no longer, or they get a career or they open a business, or there's just so many transitions. And I have to say that I don't feel like I'm the same person that you met, like as far as where I am and how I am.
Most definitely.
And so I really appreciate that you hold the space and you just let me be. So that's I think something that women, do any of you guys have that challenge with any of your relationships where you feel you're growing and maybe things are changing?
I was going to say that a year ago April, was when we were on our Zoom class. And I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And it was what led up to it was that I felt like I couldn't connect with anybody because I was analyzing everything constantly. And Mark was like, you're just analyzing the hell out of everything all the time. Like, this relationship sucks. Yeah. And I was like, all my relationships are ruined because of this program. I have no friends anymore. And so I was like, I'm quitting. That's it. I don't want this knowledge. I don't want this understanding anymore. And
what changed?
I realized that I was being put to the fire. You said one thing to me at the time. You said that you wanted to make a t-shirt that said, this conversation is going to cost you.
I actually have that shirt, so you know.
And I was like, oh, that's good, because not everyone's soliciting coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until recently that I've been able to even talk to Mark when he asks something, then I'll share. And I've really backed off of analyzing him and micromanaging him. And the other night I got to share my aha recently. He was struggling with something, and I was like, there's nothing that can be added to you or taken away. And he was like, really? And I said, no, you're whole and complete. It's your perception of yourself that needs to shift.
You got teary-eyed. What's there?
Because I see the pain in him that I know lives in me, and I'm digging up, uprooting. And so I think I know that there's peace and joy on the other side, but it's hard to watch the people we care about struggling.
Most definitely.
But lastly, so my closest friends all joined the 40-day now. And it's really cool because it's like either the relationship starts to sever or the paths align. And 3 people that are very, very important to me are now taking that on. And so that's really encouraging. And I know it's because I've learned to share, but not shove down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the shift that needed to happen a year ago. So,
You know, you guys were talking about like how I always say, "You sure you want to know?" That's why I ask, because I understand, you know, what all it can like unravel. And I've had lots of people tell me, because they know what I will unravel, they're like, "No, I don't want to know." Well, you've said that to me. Yeah. I'm like, "You want to know?" And you're like, "No, not right now. I can't handle that right now." So I get that.
I was driving to work. And she was like, "Oh, I know what it is. Do you want me?" No, it's okay. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I have 32 little people I'm going to manage in a minute. I don't need to have a breakdown right now. Thank you, though.
That is an option. I literally asked because it's an option.
I never take that option.
I'm like, go ahead, hit me.
And then I'm breaking down in the gym.
Oh my God. I know we've had some recently, huh? You know, the one thing that has really helped me with, let's just say, for example, my kids, which thank God they're not suffering or sad or anything like that as much anymore. But in the past, when I would see, let's say my daughter, for example, I could see, she'd never say anything because she coaches herself a lot, but I could see there was a struggle. I could always just remember, and I do this with all clients, when, you know, sometimes they're crying and I could see the pain. I always remember, to the extent of the pain will be the extent of the joy. To the extent of the trauma, if they're willing, is the extent of the power. And so I always just kind of keep that in the, like, as a mantra for me when I see people, and I just remember that, and I just like choose to believe that for them, for you, for me. And I think that's why I don't really have breakdowns anymore, because I'm like, I'm just trying to figure it out at times. I'm just like, okay, so what is this? And I just understand that it's going to be, the pendulum is going to swing the opposite way, and it's just going to be so majestic and divine and beautiful. And that takes practice, but the more that you do that, and then also you start to hold this belief. I was seeing this, maybe we could try it. So, you know, can you guys see your line right there? Yeah, in both hands. Do you see how you have a matching line? Mm-hmm. Do you see how the lines match? Mm-hmm. Okay, so paste them together. I know the two. Mine don't. You're dumb? You don't have two? Nah, okay, you see the two that are even? Everyone should have two lines that are even. Ready? Okay, now go ahead and put your hands together and then push your hands, and you're going to see that one hand is bigger than the other. Do you see that?
I don't even see the aligning.
Oh, I do.
Do you see that one hand is bigger than the other? Okay, put the hand that was shorter in front of you. And then tell your hand, grow, grow. I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy. Just tell it, grow, grow, grow. I can feel Trina. Grow, grow. Okay, now bring your hands back to the lining. And are they the same? You saw mine, how separated they were in height. Like, what? How did that grow?
It's like your plant when your plant dies.
Well, that reminds me of in yoga when you'll have us stretch our arm back.
Yeah.
And then we do it again and we go further because it's almost like the same thing.
Yeah, like I make you stretch to the side, and then I say, okay, now close your eye and imagine that you went all the way around. And then I have you do it again, and then you really go a lot deeper. Mm-hmm. Yes. So your body has language, and your body listens. And so when we said grow, grow, that's what happens. And people trip out. They're like, that's sorcery. Like, no, it's called anatomy, kinesiology.
That reminds me of when my leg was paralyzed. And I had told my mom, and I even took a picture right before, and I was like, I'm moving my toes today after this session. And then I got home. After the session, they were like, okay, wiggle your toes. And I was like, I'm trying. And I got home, and I was like, okay, my toes are going to wiggle. And then, like, they barely moved, and I freaked out. I was like, Mom, look at my foot. It's moving my toes. And she was like, I can't see it. And I was like, Why? And then there you saw it, boom. And then from there, it was just obviously I do it all now. But it reminded me of that. Like I told my body, like, no, we're going to wiggle our toes today. And I did.
When we connect the mind and the body into one, it really is masterful. Do you remember the time with the refrigerator?
Oh, yes. I do. So I was helping Raquel. I had the truck to bring the refrigerator down to, I believe, your son's apartment, correct?
Yeah, he had moved, got his own place.
It was just Raquel, myself, and her son. And we had to get it off the truck and wasn't sure how we were going to do this. And I believe your son came over to help, and you kind of were like, just get out of the way. Let me just do it. And my look on my face was like, how the fuck is she gonna do that? And so she did it. She did whatever she needed to do within herself, so she knew she was going to be able to do it. And oh my goodness, it was amazing to watch. The next feed, of course, they had to try and get it through this smaller doorway.
It was a really
to get
small
up the
hallway.
stairs. It was definitely impressive because this is a big refrigerator, and to get just one person doing it, I just
and it was my son was trying to help me, but he was like, "It's heavy. It's because the motor's here, Mom." I'm like, "Abisai, just get out of the way. I'll do it. Just leave me alone." And it's just that thing. I tell my body, "Okay, lift it," and it kind of reminds me when it was like 2 or 3 men and 2 ladies trying to move the heart table, remember, at the tea house?
Yes, I was a part of that.
And then they were all like, how does Raquel move this table by herself? Because I move it this way, I move it down that way. Yep. And it's just this command and this power that we have within us, but we're so riddled in we're so dense in the I can't, in the sadness, in the hurt, and the pain. And I've just learned, for me, I've done all this work, and I just feel powerful because there's such untapped power in our minds and in our bodies and in our heart when we connect the coherency of mind and body, and then spirit comes forward. And I wanted this woman's podcast to be about, and that's, I guess, if we could all take a turn, like, what's the power that you've discovered in you, and how did you do that? Like, in these 20 months, I think that's something that's very powerful that, women are struggling. People are struggling right now, whether it's because of the politics, whether it's because, you've gotten a lot of power, Heather, with your parenting. That's why you started working with me, right? And can you share a little bit about that? Like, what is the power that you've gained in that area? What's the difference today versus when you started, October 2021?
I think that I was coming from a place originally when I first started working with you where I realized now that I had just almost given my authority away. Like, I had no control in a sense of just feeling like I didn't know what I was doing, that I was messing them up because of my trauma and my wounds. And I didn't know how to transform that and to be able to change that. And I was, like Darla said, I was stuck in my storyline and I was stuck in my pain. And I felt like they just need to change.
They were the problem.
And that was my biggest resistance with you, and why I was always like, F this, F you. Because in my mind, it was, if they just get better and they stop acting like this, then everything will be perfect. And you kept telling me, you stay on this path and you keep doing what you're doing. And when you change, everything else will change. And I was like, no, that's not how it works, Raquel. And I've literally watched my entire family transform because of the work that I've done to heal the pain and the trauma and stuff that's really generational, like from the way that I grew up and what I was taught growing up. And it's just, I've been able to let go of that and release that. And it's just been beautiful. I see my husband changing. This is someone that I would have never imagined being on board with any of this. Like, he's like, this is some hocus pocus, weird stuff going on. And
Sorcery.
yeah. And then all of a sudden, you had one conversation with him, and then he came home. He's like, I'm in. And he did the university, and we've done sessions together, and individually. And now the girls are starting to see that. We're modeling to them what healing looks like and what growing looks like, and that it's okay to feel and to express yourself. And that's a beautiful thing. Like, I wasn't able to tolerate my girls' big emotions. And now I just think it's beautiful that they can express those emotions now, like at the age that they're at. And the consciousness that my 8-year-old has today is like blows my mind.
Oh, I was just thinking what Trina said. You know, this is a soft space to land. They have a soft space to land with you now. Would you mind sharing what, if it's okay, what Scarlett told you when she figured it out?
So we were driving in the car and she goes, Mom, I know why I always have the what ifs. I know what the what ifs came from. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What ifs? She's like, I'm always like, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And I get in this panic. And she's like, it's from you. It's your what ifs and your panic and your anxiety. And I was like, mind blown right now, like mic drop. You just, at 8 years old, figured out that it's not you. It's from me. Wow. And it wasn't even like a painful, sad moment to me. It was such a beautiful moment. And old Heather would have been devastated and decided to judge myself for that. And
what kind of mother does this? And
yeah, how could you do that to her? And I was just like, wow. Like, she just shifted everything for herself, being able to see that it's not her and that it's coming from me. And I was just like, mind blown. I was like, I don't want any part of that.
You and Leilani are such a goal for V-Saga. And what I mean by that is I was talking to Cassie the other day and I go, we got to figure out these automations. And like most places that like coaching courses and stuff, they have these, what do they call this? Email dripping and email campaigns and funnels. And so Cassie's busy like redoing it all because we don't want it to be salesy. Like if you don't want to be here, we don't want you to do this work, right? And so we're spending so much time in redoing this. And I was telling Cassie how we need to figure out the automation for like the 40-day, like get a text for them like, oh, you start today. And then midweek, have you been keeping up with your videos? I go, we need to do it to have success for them, right? But the reason I was telling Cassie, the reason we want that, it's not for sales or anything. It's like, it's because you want people to actually really be like handheld and get results. And I gave you and Leilani as an example. I go, I want everyone to be such a billboard. And you are exactly that. Like, we just landed a huge account with the state of California because your boss says, like, we don't know what you did to Heather. But, like, whatever you did there.
It's my coworker, not even my boss.
Oh,
she's
okay.
just my friend and coworker. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she's watched me transform and change. And she's like, give me this information because everyone in the county needs to learn this stuff.
Yeah, it was huge. So that's a walking billboard. And Leilani, I was telling Cassie, I go, Leilani's another walking billboard because some lady called. She's like, I know this lady. I know Leilani for a few years and I don't know what you did to her, but I want you. I want the same. And like within 2 minutes, I got a credit card over the phone and I'm not going to tell you the price. You can call us for that. Okay. But it was pretty remarkable, you know, because she got like the full package and within 2 minutes, here's my credit card because she knows like I want what that woman has. And so it's just very powerful. And I think a lot of the times we don't realize that within us is so many answers. And I remember doing this podcast with Dr. Stotts, and he's like, you just need to breathe and go within, and all the answers are there. And I'm like, whoa, doctor, like, yes, but no. Like, first we got to accurately think, and then, yes, once we get rid of the narratives, like you said. So that's huge. Which one's a big one for you that you feel your power in, Darla, today? That you could look at yourself and say, whoa, like, I'm in my power here. Like, this never used to be this way.
My marriage is my number one for sure. I mean, we were on the brink of divorce. So to come from that to having a second child and being, I mean, sounds cheesy, but madly in love, and me actively accepting his love is a huge step for me.
There's a lot of power in that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to accept my love?
Yes.
Okay. I love you. This is an option question.
It's better than yes.
Because I just asked her that the other day, and she's like, yes. And I'm like, you're not convincing me.
She was like, say I love you. I was like, I love you.
I love you. I was like, nah, I'm not feeling it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember last year for your birthday, I was out shopping. I was crying getting your stuff because like I love her, and yeah, it's huge. Like this is powerful. What's yours, Trina? Like, what's your like? You could look back. I shared one. I only did one session today with a client, and I'll share what I shared with her, because for me that's a huge power. But I'm really curious. Is like, what's yours?
I would say what I'm going through now with my family prepared me.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
What would you call that?
Love.
Okay.
Learning how to love.
Learning how to love.
And show up, seeing their humanness. Accepting my own humanness allows me to accept theirs.
Love you.
So, yeah, it's huge.
Thank you.
And God knew I needed that to endure this next who knows how long. So
stillness is going to be a great for everyone. You all know that I won't start my day without meditating.
Oh, and that was why I had that huge shift a few weeks ago, because I was laying there and I was feeling so riddled with angst and like anxiety, and I was just like, well, Raquel says that right before she like wakes up and she's in that twilight sleep is when that's the sweet spot. And so I like my alarm went off and then I like started praying and like meditating and sitting quiet. And that's when it all came. And she had sent me a message and I didn't know. And I was like, oh, this works. It only took me how many years I've been working
7 years?
When I first started working with you, I thought I was broken and needed to be fixed. And now I realize I was just human and needed my perception to be fixed.
I love that.
So that's a huge shift for me.
I love that. I was just a human and needed my perception to be fixed. That's what that whole sweater is about. It's hard being a human. And people think I'm saying, oh, it's hard being a human. No, I'm saying it's hard because you won't allow yourself to be human. So now we need to switch the sweater. It's okay to be human.
The amount of people that are like, it is hard. Like when I wear it to the gym and they're like, yes.
Yes. And you're smiling because you know that's not what it means.
Yes,
I get that all the time too.
The back heel grows slight.
I turn around and then I'm like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this part?
I love it. For you, what's your power that you've really come to?
Mine, I feel like there's like so many things that have been of recently, but the biggest thing, like my first one was that I was never broken. Like that was such a thing for me. Don't want to cry. I was.
Breathe.
I just wanted to be okay And I never felt like I could get there because of what happened to me.
Yeah.
And I just always felt damaged, and that I was abused. So I had this storyline that I was damaged, I wasn't good enough, I was gross, I was all of these inaccurate things. And when I took the sexual reclamation course with you, it was challenging to drop that, because I felt like, how could I? You told me, you're like, you could be free of this one day. Like you will. This won't be forever for you. And I was like, you're crazy, lady. I don't know how you could say I'm gonna be okay. Okay. And then a year later, I started really working with you, and that was huge and shifting and life changing for me, because for so long I viewed myself as damaged and not good enough and not worthy from something that I didn't create. It was done to me. So why would my life
Have to be so affected?
Yeah. And to really be free from that is so empowering and amazing. And I never would have thought that was possible. Like, never. If you went back to me at 16, I'd be like, to see where I am today, that just to be being free from that is like worth more than anything. I would have never been like, wow, like that. I only thought that was possible if it never happened to me.
I love that. That's huge.
And that was like, wow.
And I love that, because I always say that I dream of the day when we're able to get the sexual reclamation to the masses in such a way that you realize, me being sexually abused myself in different ways in different times of my life, specifically when I was a child. I always say I could make so much of a story, you know how they tell you, sell your story, you know, and your come up, and I could lead from that place, and I could just that's how a lot of people kind of sell. And I'm like, that's the least interesting thing about me in my life, is that somebody, you know, abused me. That's the least in.
When she said one time, I'm too busy looking forward to be looking back at that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like creating. And I remember I was just like, oh my God, I love that. Like, there's nothing back there for me. I don't need to look back anymore.
Yeah. And it's not that I emotionally or spiritually bypass. Like, I did the work. I processed. I felt the pain. I felt the anger. I felt the hurt. And I don't have to be an inner child for the next 30 years reliving that. I processed it. I dealt it. I felt it. I released it. And now it's exactly what Trina says. My vision for what I'm creating is so much bigger than my past. Like, I don't have time to look back. So that was huge, but definitely that's huge, Savannah. And I hope that, you know, a lot of women get to feel that, because I remember recently I worked with somebody that is in counseling, and she was in a group. And she had struggled. She was sexually abused herself, and she said that people were like, "How could you say that?" Because she learned a lot from the sexual reclamation too. And she says that it's almost like people get angry, and I'm like, well, you know, it's because they feel like you're invalidating them, and it's like, no, it has nothing to do with invalidating what you've been through. It has to do with affirming that they could never touch you that way. They can never touch your soul. They might have touched your body, but they can never touch your soul.
Yeah. Well, after my trial and everything, because we went to trial and everything, the sexual reclamation had just ended. And then I went to trial, and then I guess you could say I won the trial, and you get to say a victim speech. And at the end of my speech, the police officers came up, and even the judge himself, they were like, I've heard so many speeches, and this one, I will never forget this one. This was it was so beautiful, the way that it was written, and he helped me that morning, and they were like, I will never forget this. And then my a lawyer was like, never stop writing. Like, if there's one thing, I know I've asked so much of you from this, but please never stop writing. Like, I would love everyone's speech to sound like that. And I was like, it can.
V-Saga.com.
And so it's just like, wow. I was like, it's really like, it's amazing. It's freeing.
Awesome. I love it. Jeanette, what's your power takeaway? Like, in this Women's Month, like, what would you like women to know that is in us that's possible?
Well, I've been thinking about several things right now, but it is possible to be in your power and to know who you are, and only you define yourself, and create yourself, and to bring back life to yourself. For me, that's kind of how it's been, is rediscovering myself, and some parts actually discovering for the first time.
What did I tell you your strength was yesterday? You forgot? Yes, you had several strengths, but the one you never give up.
I never give up.
You never give up.
I'm the tortoise, but I never give up. Yeah, I've never given up because I know within me it's
Doesn't
there.
the tortoise win?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because I'm a winner.
We all have, I think as women, we need to respect that. We all have our own pace and we all have our own tempo. And we all have, I remember you saying with me and Lupe that you said, I can't, I am trying to keep up. And it's like, and she had just had a baby and stuff. And it's like, we all have to look at different things that are going on in our life, and we don't have to compare or compete. We just need to hold each other up. And then when one can't, I think that's like what you said, old Darla would have been done with me a long time ago. And I have to say that I don't think I've gone at anyone as hard. No, I treat you guys all with like a glass, right? That's why I say this is a safe space for me, because I'm all making sure, but not this one. This one, and I told her, iron sharpens iron. You know, like there's obviously something that I know you were able to be like that person that I needed, so I could see myself and be my mirror, and then be like, okay, I need to like rewire myself. Why am I, and I just really, even though I had a lot of like, let's say it's not about being on point or right. We were talking about that before. It's about, but how do you walk in love?
I was having a conversation with Savannah the other day, and I told her, she said something about like, if Raquel told me to jump off a bridge, I would jump off a bridge. And I said, that's
no.
not accurate.
Yeah, 100.
And I said,
she's heard that from me too.
Yeah, but I could say that because I had to see Raquel's humanness. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I really had the love for her, because after everything that had transpired, I was like, wow, like I was still looking at me like, okay, what in me can I work on so that this can work? And that, I think that's love.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't love her, I wouldn't want to do that.
100. And that's, I think, if as women we started to, instead of boundaries or you did me wrong or you came at me wrong or I can only tolerate, like we have this like what you need to be for me to be okay, or what you need to give me, or how you need to show up. And I think one of the most beautiful thing when I can think of our relationship, it hasn't been about you and it hasn't been about me. It's been about love, God, spirit, what's right, not you being right, not me being right, but like what is like truth, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, just like definitely you're a powerhouse. So,
I am.
yep. What's it? Did you go already? Did you say? Okay. Heather? Oh, you went too. Cassie.
Hello.
Hello. My boo thing.
I think just recently too for me is the fact that I know I'm a creator and it's just going within, like hushing up the inner turmoil. Like I was telling you, that's the loop that I'm in. And I'm finding myself stepping out of it and just being. Because you know me, like before I even said yes to coaching, like my life is great. I'm going to retire from UCR. Me and Jose are going to retire in Hawaii. I'm going to be on the beach. Like, I'm just going to do yoga. And that's it. Like, I don't need to do anything more. This is amazing. But was I creating? No. And yeah, I'm struggling right now figuring things out, like you said, the funnels, the marketing, and all of that. But at the same time, like there's a purpose. I'm committed to something because I can create. And that's within us. That's a choice. And so I think that's like been coming up a lot for me lately is stopping like the craziness that goes on in here because it's just there. And then I can just be when I like stop it. Like, girl, come on. Like, you are that giant. Like Brenda all the time. Like, be that giant. And you be that giant. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I think about it too. I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm a creator. That's what it is. And so I'm seeing this as my creation. Like we're saying, this is the foundation of V-Saga. So we're creating. We have pain points, whatever, like body rituals too, pain points, but we're creating something bigger, And like when you showed me that video of that beautiful place in Tulum, Mexico, and it like had all of this beautiful gym and it's on the beach and you do all this gorgeous stuff. I was like, oh yeah, that's VF1.
Yeah.
We're going to have body rituals there. We're going to have V-Saga there. We're going to do spinning there. We're going to do peace and happiness. Like that's what I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've been seeing a lot lately.
I've seen you evolved a lot, and she goes through it every day because she doesn't say no when I ask her the question. You really want to
Didn't
know?
know that was an option. I didn't know.
So part of her job for 2 hours a day is to have a breakdown and a breakthrough.
That was my first day. She was like, we should add this in the benefits. I was like, oh no, it's amazing now.
I don't know. I remember when you said that, I was like, most people wouldn't feel this is a benefit. It is a benefit, obviously, but it doesn't feel like it. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to I don't know if okay, here it is. I'm going to share mine. And it was something that I shared with a client this morning. She's 73. And I was trying to tell her about self-love. And Jeanette, you can attest to this. Everyone used to tell me, you need to love yourself. You need to love yourself.
Yes.
And I've always been and it's on my way here, I was hearing this thing, and it's always this balance and work-life balance, and you need to love yourself. And I was like, I was listening, and it was a verse, and it was saying how like when you really like find your purpose, that doesn't exist. And I'm not gonna, I'm sure people have very strong feelings about all that. Regarding, I heard Simon Sinek too today. He was talking about how everyone says, well, you can't pour from an empty cup, but then you're like, but the team needs you. And he says like, which one is it? And it's what I tell you guys, well, be present. And it's a case-by-case basis. Like some days you need to leave it all on the floor. And some days you need to go take care of yourself. I tell you guys that all the time. Right. And so for me, the internet, I don't really think I have internet here. Let's see if it comes. Okay. So my power is that I didn't love myself though, because I was, rejected by my dad as far as having his last name, rejected by the U.S. and Mexico. Neither wanted to recognize me as a citizen. I was born in the U.S. I went through that 3-year battle that with Homeland Security. I was a child that didn't belong to the nucleus family. I was the outside child, me and my brother. There's just so much, when you could feel I was abused. I was lied on a lot, defiled a lot within the people that were supposed to be my safe space. And so for the longest time, I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I was sharing with a loved one, you know how like you think that I just want to show up and like I know everything and I want to be like lifting myself up and talking about like how people love me or what people say about me. I go, that's not me trying to pump myself up. That's me saying, I'm good. Can you love me? Can you see that I want to be worthy of being in this family? And I think that a lot of families are suffering through that, you know? Like you can think this whole perspective, oh, this person's full of herself. And I don't ever share a whole lot anymore because I don't need to, you know, because I'm like, I know who I am. And it's not because you guys love me or people love me. I was doing this session with a 73-year-old woman. And it was about self-love and how she wants to find love at 73. And she's been single for 30 years, I think. And it's just amazing. And I said, look, I go, I'm all for you finding that person, but you got to love you first. And I can honestly say that I didn't love myself, but my power is that I love myself and I love myself in this way. And I'm going to try and interpret it because it's in Spanish. I love all of everything that you are. You are the model of the incredible. You are beauty and you are virtue in one. Your looseness to forgive. You never let anyone die. And you go around planting illusions. You don't know what you cause. I don't think you've become aware that people are grateful that you exist. I love you. I love you more than a new world, and I love you more than a perfect day. I love you more than a smooth wine, and I love you more than a long dream. I love you more than my music. I love you more than my years. I love you more than my sadness, and I love you more than the things that I do. I love you more than my impulses. I love you more than my pleasure. I love you more than my favorite game. I love you. I love all your persona. I love the powerful Cinderella that you are. You never forget anyone's pain, and you outlive yourself to make them happy. You haven't noticed what you are, and it terrorizes me that you don't notice it. You make the roses fight to be your brooch. I love you. I love you more than a new world. And then it goes, let me press the lyrics. I love you more than your sensuality that you think you hide so well. I love you more than our first kiss. I love you more than the magical night of our wedding. More than anything in life, I love you. And I told her, I sing this song to me today. I go, and that's not something, it's funny because I shared it with her this morning. I go, that's not something I really share with anyone. You're the first person I'm sharing with outside of my sisters and my cousin. And she just laughed, oh yeah, because of what people would think, that I'm full of myself. And I said, actually, no, I'm past caring what people think. I don't share it because I don't need to. From the girl that used to be begging for love. And so I think my message to women is that go within, go deep, deep, deep within. And in the depth of your soul, you will find God. And in that, you will find that you are all things and you are everything beautiful. And from there, you will see people as light and you will see people as if that's all they are. And before we started this podcast, I was sharing that I had been struggling the last 4 or 6 weeks. And that's what I got to return to today, was I just get to see you guys all in your light. And I always tell my kids, you get from people what you believe. And I believe greatness for each and every one of you. And I love to see what your lives have become and are becoming and it will become. And so to any woman hearing this today, we just send you all the love in the world. So does anyone want to add anything?
No, I'm just trying not to cry.
Darla's over here with her eyes.
I love you, ladies.
I love you too. But no, seriously, you guys, like it's been a journey and you guys are all powerhouses. I know that I am not easy what I demand as far as like working shoulder to shoulder. I can look back at the 20 months and you guys have really been in a deep, deep journey. And I thank you because of you, I am. And because you have been brave and courageous to take this journey with me, you catapulted me to a whole other place of love and understanding and wisdom and favor. And so thank you so much. And we'll see you guys. This is probably one of our longest podcasts, but it's expected with seven women. We're missing 4. So thank you. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us in today's episode. We hope that we reached our goal to equip you, the listener, to your personal power, that you may be free, that you may have healed things in your heart, grow your mindset, and slay at creating a life you love. Until the next one, heal, grow, slay.